Hi. This is Elliot Fishman. Welcome to our weekly Facebook Live and Facebook Live on Instagram. Hope everybody is having a great day. So you can obviously tell I'm not in my usual tuxedo, but I'm wearing my Lustgarten Foundation Pancreatic Cancer Research with the hashtag We Love You, Alex Trebek. And this is courtesy of Lustgarten Foundation. And today, many of you are aware that it's sort of this focus day on pancreatic cancer, both to really kind of bring it to the public's attention more about what's being done and what needs to be done, and the research being done, and the research that needs to be done. It's the focus on the people whose lives have changed and are being changed by this terrible disease. And I think it's interesting, although there are 40-some odd thousand deaths in the U.S. a year and over 50,000 new cases, and the numbers seem to be growing, and it's not a U.S. disease, it's a worldwide disease. But it seems to be one of the cancers that's, I won't say the word is neglected. I think the problem is, maybe the better word rather than neglected is frustration. Many other cancers, there's new discoveries that relate and give cures and better survivals, immunotherapy, vaccines, and the like. And so much is being done with pancreatic cancer, which is improving things, but not at the speed we want. And as we know, it's the third leading cause of death in cancer, and it keeps moving up the ladder as the other cancers keep coming down the ladder. So it's really a very frustrating thing. And so we do celebrate today all of the work being done, but we celebrate all the patients with pancreatic cancer and their bravery. And we also celebrate the work that volunteers are doing, the work that the Lustgarten Foundation is doing, and other organizations. But particularly, we're very tied to the Lustgarten Foundation. It is through their generosity that we've been able to do the Felix Project, which is finishing our third year and going to the fourth year, hopefully, for looking at the early detection of pancreatic cancer on CT by using deep learning and AI. And that becomes very, very important. I think pancreatic cancer is in the news. You can see many people, I posted on CTisus, a page from Wikipedia, about how many famous people die, but if it's your relative, that's a very famous person. So it's really not the famous, but it's the everyman. People like Alex Trebek from Jeopardy kind of make things more visible, and to his credit, he's been embracing the disease. Arne Sorensen, the head of Marriott and CEO of Marriott, spoke about the disease as well. We know that some people haven't had adenocarcinoma, which is the most common killer, but have had neuroendocrine tumors. Two of them we mentioned on the website: Steve Jobs and Aretha Franklin. Two of the people in that regard. Now, the thing about pancreatic cancer, we are making strides. So let me first talk about surgery. Last week, Dr. John Cameron, who was a chair of surgery from 1984 to 2003 at Hopkins, spoke about his experience that when he became chair in 1984, his focus was to develop the Whipple's procedure to make it an incredible study for patients with pancreatic cancer. Now, when he spoke about it, he mentioned that he had done 6 or 8 Whipples before he made this decision, which is tremendous chutzpah, that you could change everything. Remember, patients with pancreatic cancer with Whipple's procedure had a 40% mortality before they left the hospital. Today, it's less than 1%. Today, the understanding of chemotherapy and radiation therapy, the precise timing of that with surgery, is making people live longer and giving people more hope for cures. We used to operate on someone who looked resectable, but knowing you can't see every cell. Now we do chemotherapy and targeted radiation therapy. And then hopefully the tumor is basically dead by the time you operate and you skeletonize the vessel. So we're really making great strides in that. The surgeons have made incredible strides in who is resectable. People at Hopkins, just the who's who, that the Cameron spoke about that, how he put together the dream team. He had Henry Pitt come back. He had Mike Zinner come back. Then he had Charlie Yeo and Keith Lillema, who were finishing, who became 2 incredibly famous surgeons. Keith is head of Mass General. Charlie's head at Jefferson, both who followed Dr. Cameron doing incredible amounts of Whipple's procedure. Dr. Cameron, as you know, has well over 2,000 Whipple's procedures when he stopped operating. But so much of what we're able to do is because of that surgery, because Dr. Cameron and his team were able to change the surgery, which took 12 to 14 hours and now takes 5 to 7 hours. We can do the surgery laparoscopically now, both for the head and for the tail, so there's less invasiveness. Patients come in and out of the hospital in 5 days, not in 2 or 3 weeks. You don't have a 40% mortality during the surgery or after the surgery. It's under 1%. So we have made great strides. Unfortunately, as we know, 15% of patients at time of presentation are resectable potentially, and many of those really aren't resectable. So we're looking at early detection of pancreatic cancer with CT. We scan many patients during the year for abdominal pain, trauma, just routine whatever. We have the pancreas in 30 million people in the US alone. We can look at that and try to detect cancer before it's visible. We know from our multidisciplinary conference that up to 15 to 30% of patients who have pancreatic cancer today had a scan within the last 12 months that was read as negative. Retrospect, sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's negative, but can we do better? Can we have the computer point the pathology so the radiologists don't miss it? I think that becomes very, very important. Now, just to say while I'm talking here, hello, John Biacchino from Mace Chapel, but if anyone has questions or comments, suggestions, thoughts, this is a very good forum to do that. It's a way of sharing the information with your colleagues and friends around the world. So I'll just make that point. So it's really a challenge. So what we're doing is we're putting a lot more effort into being able to detect. Our team with Alan Yulee and Bert Vogelstein and Ken Kinsler and Ralph Rubin, myself, Linda Chu, Tomi Kawamoto, Ava Zinreich, on and on. We're now at the 90+% for detection of pancreatic cancer just by the computer. So again, we're now looking at the patients who were screened for pancreatic cancer and eventually developed cancer but had normal studies. Can we pick up things earlier? Can we pick up things when the radiologist can't? Can we pick up the earliest textures? Once I see something, you can say, well, it's a small tumor, but the fact that I can see it, it's large enough that I can see it. Small would be, can somehow the computer pick it up when I can't see it? That's an interesting question, and that's something we are looking at. And we're doing some work starting on that as well at the very, very moment we're sitting here and talking. So that part becomes very exciting. We also know that in terms of pancreatic cancer, we talk about adenocarcinoma and neuroendocrine tumors. Neuroendocrine tumors are getting a little bit better in terms of survival. They always were better than adeno-CA. There's some new drugs, new understanding about that. And we have good understanding of that as well. And we're looking at ways using CT as predicting grade 1, 2, or 3, so you can determine who you operated on and who you don't operate on. So there's lots of things really going on in that regard. So I do want to say, although the statistics are dismal, when you read the stats, you say, oh my God, what are you guys doing? Are you doing nothing? Well, the answer is, it's a difficult disease and we are doing things, but changing the needle, even a little bit, is going to be indeed very difficult unless we come up with big time discoveries. Now, it's the Lustgarten foundations and other foundations as well that are putting a lot of money where your mouth is. That is putting money to support research that can be challenging. They want to support good research, but they know that you need to support things which are not always going to work. There's a challenge involved. And so a lot of the research I've seen, Lustgarten, to their credit, is picking good researchers with good ideas and needing the good execution. And they watch you very carefully and they work with you very carefully. So I think they really have a very nice way of doing things. And their mission, their goal is really to cure pancreatic cancer. The Lustgarten's goal is to put themselves out of business. They're basically there to simply help the fight against pancreatic cancer. And you could see, this is from the Lustgarten Foundation. I'll read you the first paragraph. Dear friends, in honor of Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month, and to show our appreciation for the incredible public platform pancreatic cancer has been given through Jeopardy and host Alec Trebek's pancreatic cancer diagnosis, we have enclosed Lustgarten Foundation t-shirts with the hashtag of "We Love You, Alex," for everyone in the lab to wear on the World Pancreatic Cancer Day, which is today, the 21st of November, 2019. So we do have Now the t-shirts is probably not going to cure anybody. It's a nice t-shirt, nice color, purple. Some people say, well, we're Raven fans. Perhaps it would be incredible if when the Ravens, I think, have a home game this week and they get 65,000 people. 65,000 people wore Lustgarten colors in honor of the Lustgarten Foundation. And I got a feeling when the Ravens do talk, when they do speak Monday night, I think they're on Monday Night Football. The Ravens are a good team this year. When they do speak, they will mention that color is an honor and great part of the fight against pancreatic cancer and support for the Lustgarten Foundation. So I think that's something that should be really cute come Monday night. In terms of other things, where's the research really going? I think that is a challenge. I think people are looking for immunotherapies. People are looking for drugs. People are looking for better detection, better lab values, better delivery systems. People are looking at optimizing surgery, something as simply as when's the surgery performed? Do you wait 4 months or 6 months? Do you wait at all? When should you take the patient to surgery without chemotherapy? When do you need chemotherapy? Is there any way for us to improve the outcomes of these patients? I think these are all questions that are not simple questions, but if there were simple questions, we wouldn't be having this podcast. We wouldn't be looking at what it takes to really change the world and change the process. So that indeed becomes very important. We presented a couple of weeks ago at the Lustgarten Foundation. They support our work, but many other researchers, most of them in the basic science, looking at molecular bases of disease, looking at targeting, looking at cures. There are many people working on the cure aspect of things, trying to develop a vaccine, trying to figure out how to do immunotherapy. Melanoma worked well, other tumors worked well. Could we do this in pancreatic cancer? There's been a lot of work at Hopkins and elsewhere going on immunotherapy for a number of years. Not exactly perfectly successful. We don't have the answer yet. But I think in pancreatic cancer, perhaps we're getting less questions and more answers. Perhaps we're moving things forward to the point that we're able to really contribute to increasing patient survival. And perhaps we have more of a roadmap exactly how people should expect to do with the disease. There is some work going on. We've done some of it as well, looking at predicting survival with pancreatic cancer. One of the things we can see with imaging is not just detection of disease and staging of disease, but also predicting response to chemotherapy as well as predicting outcomes. That's going to be very, very important. If we could do outcomes, you can imagine how good that would be in terms of selection for patients, better informed patients. There are many things we can do. So I think that becomes very, very important for us to really think about. In terms of CTisus, just to let you know, and Lily put some stuff up this morning, we have a number of lectures on pancreatic cancer and pancreas you can read about. Our most current lecture, part 2, is on pancreatic cancer. So last week, this week, and next week, we have 3 lectures from me on pancreatic cancer. We have a ton of teaching files. Under our AI section, which will be shown at RSNA, we have a whole component on the Felix Project and the work we're doing for Lustgarten and the articles that have been published. In the whole AI section, we speak a lot about pancreatic cancer. It has its own different areas. So again, we are very committed to really working hard and delivering on our promise of helping survival by having early detection of this just terrible, terrible disease. So I'm kind of running out of time, but I'm looking if anyone has any questions. This is a really good time to ask. I think one thing in terms of pancreatic cancer, just to remind people, from a CT perspective, protocols are critical. Dual phase CT, 3D imaging, thin sections are all things that I think about every single day. And you have to be careful. You got to look very carefully at cystic lesions for nodularity. You got to look for subtle changes in texture. You got to look for things like duct cutoff. There are many easy ways to miss pancreatic cancer early. Having a 5cm mass with vascular invasion, that's easy to diagnose, but that's too late. How do we do things better and earlier and faster? And again, some of it is going to be the computers really helping us. Some of it is just us paying attention and looking much more carefully. So I think that part's exciting. The role of CT, the role of MR, the role of PET sometimes can be very valuable as well. But CT is the mainstay of the detection of pancreatic cancer. And again, recognizing that not every patient with pancreatic cancer has the requisition that says rule out pancreatic cancer. most patients with abdominal pain, elevated LFTs, abdominal symptom satiety, whatever you want to say, it's important for us to really recognize that. So I think I'm out of time, and I don't think people have a lot of questions, but I do encourage you. This is from the Lustgarten. As Mr. Trebek said when he was first diagnosed, keep the faith and we'll win, we'll get it done. With all of us working to advance research, I am confident that we're moving closer to achieving this goal. And that was from Kerry Kaplan, who's the president and CEO of the Lustgarten Foundation Initiative for the Cure of Pancreatic Cancer and for early detection and for better outcomes for all of our patients. Now here, a couple of questions last minute. Natasha, could you recommend double modality using MR and CT? I think CT is the workhorse because CT is the best for picking up small adenocarcinomas. MR is particularly good for looking at cysts. They both have advantages, but both of them should be able to pick up early pancreatic cancer. Endoscopic ultrasound is, in my opinion, is done for biopsy. You see something, you biopsy. I think endoscopic ultrasound in the face of negative CT and MR probably is not a good thing. So those are a couple of questions I could answer. And since there are no more questions, I want to thank everybody for their time. If you want to donate money to Lustgarten Foundation, they'll be happy to take it. It's a great day to take it. They've been able to do well with the entire show of, the Jeopardy, including the Tournament of Champions. So I'm just reading from them. Thanks to Shutterfly's donation and the momentum of We Love You, Alex, we've now raised over $53,000 for critical research in less than 1 week. So I think people really know they need to get behind and support this. So with that, I'll thank you for your attention. Support the Lustgarten Foundation. Jamie from Dr. Hutchins' office, who sees a lot of patients with pancreatic cancer as well. And Andy Judd, thank you for sharing from Saudi Arabia. Hello, Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia, also pancreatic cancer, not uncommon there. Arab Health, I think a lot of the talks at the Arab Health meeting in January will also address pancreatic cancer. So pancreatic cancer, there's a good article, I think I listed it online a few weeks ago, that shows how worldwide the problem is and how it's increasing across all developed and less developed countries. So with that, happy Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month and Pancreatic Cancer Day, and hope to see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.